What's up, everyone? Welcome to AI Agents Hour. I'm with Abby. I'm Shane. And today we're going to be, it wasn't that long ago when we had the last AI Agents Hour. Normally we do this thing on Mondays, just like today. We're a little early, but we did have some guests and we wanted to have a little extra time to talk about OpenAI's Dev Day, talk about some of the AI news since last Thursday when we last had an episode, and yeah, just hang out for a bit.
Yeah. It's been an exciting day already.
Yeah. I mean, I think anytime there's a big, launch, especially like a launch keynote, we always try to tune in. And so we will definitely give you our hot takes and our opinions as we go through the list of things. We'll try to pull up as well, maybe some opinions from others in the community, so to speak, and see what they're thinking about all the launches that happened, specifically on OpenAI Dev Day, because I think there's some cool things, some interesting things, and we'll be interested to see and hear what you all think. As always, this thing is live. So, like Tim already said, like the apps SDK.
Yes, the previous question. How does it influence us?
Oh.
We'll talk about those things.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. But this is live. So if you have questions, drop them in the chat, whether you're watching on X, LinkedIn, YouTube, wherever, and we will try to answer questions as we go.
This week is SF Tech Week. So happy Tech Week to all those who celebrate, who are probably going to waste a lot of time going to events. But we have an event on Thursday. It's a book signing. If you don't have your book, bring it and we'll sign it. And there's plenty of other events going on. I believe tomorrow we have a JS Trivia Night that we're sponsoring. That's at, I forget, it's close to YC. So if you want to play trivia, come on down. So tons of things going on this week in SF. The other SF.
Yeah, right now we are both located in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, but Abby's heading back to SF today. I'm heading there tomorrow, and then, we'll be there all week. So we will, if you're in San Francisco, stop out at one of the events and hang out with us.
Cool.
And yeah, should we talk about OpenAI Dev Day a bit?
Yeah.
I guess maybe we can go high level of like what they announced, and then maybe we'll throw up some tweets and some posts so you can see some of the UI and some of the things that they released. I would say they kind of had, the one big thing for me was what they call, I guess they called it their agent. What was it? Agent kit. Agent kit. But it had kind of three components that they wanted to really announce. They had agent builder, chat kit, and evals. So I guess tell us about agent kit, Abby. What is it?
So agent kit is an agent builder type of product. It's like a canvas where you can essentially create agentic flows. And how it works, you have like a nice UI. You can put things together, connect nodes. You essentially have an agentic workflow run. You can take that ID, you can go and run it in your OpenAI SDK, or, so that's one way. Other thing is they have Chat Kit, which is an embeddable chat UI that you can then also use with their SDKs, and then evals and doing evals. So they're trying to get into the game of a lot of different companies. So it's pretty interesting.
And yeah, let's pull up this here. We'll see from the OpenAI developers account, and we'll show their little promo 10-second video on the Agent Kit, which was just released, which I don't, not much more than what we just said there, but kind of nice to see some graphics around this. So, wow, that's just a workflow chart. Okay, well, it says Agent Kit, build, deploy, and optimize your agentic workflows. So they have Chat Kit, which is embeddable, customizable chat UI. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. Agent Builder, which is your WYSIWYG workflow creator, definitely going directly at Zapier and
N8N,
N8N.
Vellum.
Yeah. Then they have
Agent
guardrails.
Stack.
Yeah,
I can name all the
a
companies.
ton of them. Yeah, a ton of people are now probably a little worried after today, but this is the industry. This is startups, right? Then you have guardrails and evals, which are again all around like improving, optimizing, measuring your agent. So it's a whole kit around what I would say is like lower code building of agents.
Yeah.
With the ability to kind of build your own chat UI on top of it.
Yeah, and I think this product really helps the like developer adjacent roles, product managers, etc., as more so than a developer. But we'll see. Things like this can expand. When we first started Mastra, there were a bunch of these agent builder type products out there, and we actually attempted to build one too. But we kind of realized that developers, like true developers, wanted more control, which is kind of why we built Mastra. But it's nice to see that those ideas we had back then are still valid and are still being kind of worked on right now. And it doesn't mean that we're not going to work on them, but it's just awesome to see that good ideas are on the stage. OpenAI has great marketing and outreach, so it kind of validates a lot of things that what people are working on. I do see a lot of tweets saying N8N is dead and shit. I don't know about that. Let's not like jump to conclusions.
Yeah.
But that's usually what happens on these developer days. You have like Slick saying like 100 startups are now dead, and like I don't know. It's just to put FOMO into everybody. I'm not scared about shit, so that's where it's at.
Yeah, I think not everything that OpenAI launches has turned out to be great. So they're always at these events. You always have to overhype what you have. And then there's like this period of where it actually settles and people realize what can you actually do with it? How good is it? Is it something that they're just launching, or is it something that they're going to continually invest time and effort into, which is also important?
Yeah.
And you have a big company that's trying to tackle 100 different big projects at one time. They're building models. They got an SDK. They got now a workflow engine like with a UI low code environment. They have obviously like all their integrations. So they got a lot of things. Of course, they are very well funded, but at some point, there's very likely that individual startups like N8N or Zapier or whatever can still outcompete someone who's focused on not focused on doing a lot of things. So we will see how it all plays out. It is interesting, especially Replit released their Agent 3, which has an agent builder built in. Lovable had some stuff where they're doing some things with like AI and the ability to build like agents right within your apps. So it is all these things kind of start to collide over time. And I guess that's part of the game is everyone like carves out a niche and then expands, and we kind of see where everything ends up going longer term.
I mean, OpenAI wants to take over the world, right? So naturally they'll get into everything. There's like news about them having a device. So like, they're like the Apple of this industry.
Yeah, I guess that positions us more as the Android in this case. You can bring whatever pieces you want. So let's jump in. We do have some comments here. So Tim did say, moved over to YouTube as the X player sucks. Well, hopefully they can fix that, but I agree. Tim said, would love to have the book. Well, that's good, Tim, because you can actually get the book. If you go to master.ai/book, it will send you a digital copy, but I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly in that email, there's actually like a link where you can request a physical copy and we will send it to you. I'm pretty sure we can get it to Germany.
Yeah, we ship there.
So I think that's one of the places we can ship. We can't ship to every country, unfortunately. Although some of you that might be watching this in India, we used to not be able to ship to India. And I don't think we can yet, but within a week or two, we will be able to. So if you're in India and you've been requesting a book and we've said, I'm sorry, we don't have a way to get it there, we figured out a way. We had a lot of people request it. So we wanted to find out how to get it there. And so just heads up that that is coming. If it's not already, it will be very soon. Let's see. Brazil, I don't know if we can ship to Brazil. Maybe. I'm not sure about that, actually. And Codando, Carlos, you want to work with Mastra AI and you already have experience with TypeScript? Cool. Go to Mastra.ai and copy the command and just start building stuff. Yeah.
Now, if you want to work for Master AI, we have some open job recs. You can go apply and see how things will work.
Yeah. All right. So what else on Dev Day? So this chat kit, I didn't look into the details of chat kit, but that's also interesting too, because they have this agent builder, which is definitely targeted towards like competing with Zapier, N8N, Replic's new agent builder. But they also have this chat kit, which kind of sounds like they're coming for Copilot Kit, Assistant UI, AI elements from Vercel, which is just like a set of React components to allow you to build a chat interface. So if that's the case, then also not only is OpenAI competing with some of the workflow builder companies, they're also trying to go after the UI as well. So I didn't see much on that. Kind of went under the radar a little bit. They mentioned it. They showed on stage. If you do watch OpenAI's like the keynote, there was an 8-minute let's build an agent, and they showed really quickly. They copy pasted some React code, and they showed that like how it works, but it was very quick, so you didn't really get a good piece of it.
I can share how it all looks.
Yeah.
So here's the chat kit docs. You can see, we can just run through this little demo they have here. So you put your API key in, and that's that. And it's just a mini ChatGPT, essentially.
Yeah. Cool. Does it give you a lot of use to be able to like customize it?
I believe you can embed this from here.
So you like embed the UI as like a component?
Yeah. It's like pretty much bringing ChatGPT everywhere. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So essentially you can use, kind of simplified ChatGPT for your agent, which makes sense. That's probably what you want to do. You have an application, if you build an agent, you likely want people to chat with it. I do think that's a little limiting because what we've learned is it's not just a chat. People don't just want a chat interface to interact with agents. I think that's what people generally think of. That's the most common way to interact. But oftentimes you're interacting with agents through external triggers, or honestly, like even Slack or other external systems as well. Cool. Shivan, I don't know how to pronounce your name. Shivansh. You're from Sioux Falls? Cool. I'm from Sioux Falls.
We're in
Sioux Falls right now. So
see you at Wiley's.
Welcome. No, don't go there.
Don't go to Wiley's.
And so Davi asked, which is a little bit more Mastra specific, we probably won't demo the networks feature today, but we still have it documented as experimental, but that's changing, right?
Yeah. I mean, November 6th will be our 1.0 release where we won't have experimentals anymore. And we have a workshop on multi-agent systems coming up in the next couple of weeks. So you should check that out.
Yeah, I think it's going to be right after November 6th. So November 6th, we have the TSAI conference, which reminds me, if you have not registered, even if can't attend in San Francisco in person, you can register for the virtual option so you can watch the live stream. So it's tsconf.ai. I'm just going to drop that in. We haven't really been talking. Oh, there it is. So tsconf.ai. Go register if you haven't already. We have a ton of great speakers. We have Swix. We have Paul from BrowserBase. We have Dex from Human Layer. I mean, Michael Greenwich from WorkOS. We have people from Langfuse. I mean, we got all kinds of great speakers. If you go look on the website, you'll see. You also might get to hear Abhi and I talk as well. We'll be there.
Shit.
We will be there, and we will be doing our thing. All right. So we talked about Agent Builder. We talked about Chat Kit. The evals and the guardrails were also pretty interesting. So again, if you imagine this agent builder, it's just like a drag and drop workflow builder. And what they basically demonstrated was it was very easy to just easily drag in a guardrail as a node in your workflow. And then you can wire up, like you want to make sure there's no personally identifiable information. And you want to make sure that any other types of guardrails that you can basically block the execution. And then you can, of course, set up evals, which happen after the execution actually happens.
And the eval products are infringing on the companies that do evals, right? So they have data sets here, prompt optimization, tracing, you can grade them with annotations. So seems like OpenAI hit everyone today.
Yeah, they're coming after, Arise and Langsmith and Langfuse and all the other like observability provider / dataset creation eval companies, Brain Trust as well to some extent. I do think that this is positioned much more towards like technical but not developer necessarily to build agents, which is interesting, a little bit more towards the N8N. But they also have their agent SDK, so they're really trying to own the entire thing from beginning to end. And so next up, let's talk about some of the other stuff that they released. So Sam Altman came back on the stage a little later, and he announced some new things for developers. So if you were actually a developer and engineer, this is probably the only thing that really might impact your day to day.
But it's tight.
Yeah. So they did announce that they have GPT-5 Pro available in the API. So that's a cool thing because you get kind of that higher level of reasoning. It's a better model that can run for kind of longer, more complex tasks. So now that's available in the API. This one was probably
the best one.
One of the best ones in my opinion. One of the best announcements for me. And what we do is there's GPT-5 or GPT Real-Time Mini. So their voice model, it's now smaller and 70% cheaper than the existing real-time API. So if you have considered real-time voice, what we've always told people is like OpenAI's real-time voice is great, but it's too expensive for most use cases. We had people that build voice agents tell us that they would love to use it. It's just not financially feasible for like where their margins are in their business. 70% cheaper gets it closer for sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
they didn't say if it was better, but it is cheaper.
I think what he said is the voice was, he basically said it was just as good. Now,
just as good.
Is it? You be the judge. You go use it. But assuming it is just as good and 70% cheaper, and because it's a smaller model, it should be faster as well. So ideally, like slightly faster. If that is actually true, that's a pretty big game changer for voice agents.
Yeah, because usually voice agent companies do two different models for SST and TTS on two different sides, just because real time is just super expensive. And then if that's not the case, then you'll see a bunch of voice agents come out. Also, they also said that they're going to focus a lot on voice. It's a big deal to them. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And last but not least, they announced, if you've been paying attention, we talked about it last week. Sora came out, the new version of Sora 2. And they announced that Sora 2 is now available in the API. And I think this is going to unlock a whole like new wave of startups that OpenAI will eventually just try to kill, of course, because that's what they do. Yeah. But there's going to be this idea of like video editors and all these tools that, like Mosaic is one, right? There's the people that we went to YC with, but all these other tools now have access to potentially use Sora in their like video editing tools, whether you need like B-roll for movies or, commercials or whatever, or you want to actually build more comprehensive, like video editing software or creation software really around a model like Sora 2. And so having it available through the API just opens up a whole bunch of different types of software I think we're going to see that can kind of embed this stuff or even just like add this capability in existing software. Again, I do think that as OpenAI, continues to evolve, they're going to add more features just to the Sora app that'll probably allow you to do this kind of creation. If you have used the Sora app, like we tried to show it last week on the web version is not very good. I wouldn't recommend using it. The app version is pretty good. It's pretty compelling, but they're almost trying to build like a TikTok type environment for AI generated videos. And I did hear they've kind of rolled back some of the copyright things. You used to be able to get it to do anything. You could get Pikachu to shoot lightning bolts at Mario, right? But I've heard they've kind of toned that back after the first week because they had a lot of copyright complaints. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
So there might be some limitations in what you can actually have it do now, but they basically want to make this like TikTok feed of AI generated video slop, in my opinion. But some of it's kind of compelling. It's interesting. It's kind of funny.
There's a lot of slop on X already. Like
Yeah.
Ken Wheeler's making so many Sora videos with him in it, and he's just a funny character. But
Yeah.
the cameo feature is super cool. I think they put Dax in like so many Soras because he, you can give your cameo public so it can be used.
Yeah.
Which I guess is how you get out of privacy concerns. So
yeah, you can choose to make your cameo public, and then you can obviously put multiple cameos in a video, get them interacting. It's good. It's not great. Like what you see is definitely a selection of mini iterations, but I do imagine, just like a lot of people use like the TikTok video editor to like edit videos and stuff, I think that OpenAI is probably going to add video editing features right into Sora. So they're going to, they're going to be consuming and competing with a lot of these other video editing software that's going to use Sora as an API eventually. They're just probably not there yet. But assuming that it keeps the interest that it has had the last couple weeks or the last week and a half or whatever, I think that they'll probably continue to improve that app, and they'll add some of that video editing features where you can kind of slice together and have more fine-grained control over the cuts that happen in the videos that are generated. So that's it. I mean, those are the big OpenAI Dev Day announcements. There was kind of like a bunch of apps built right into ChatGPT, Spotify, Zillow, Coursera. So they're kind of built into right into the ChatGPT experience. So that's kind of a big deal as well. But so if you're using ChatGPT, you might notice that or be able to kind of interact with those things. But besides that, I think that's most of the OpenAI Dev Day recap. Anything we missed?
No, we'll see what happens. This is like one of those we'll see what happens to everybody else type of situations.
Yeah. If you're in the chat, if we missed something, what did we miss? Is there anything else interesting from OpenAI Dev Day we should talk about? Let us know. Drop us a comment. But we do have some other AI news. So let's talk about some of the other things. Speaking of, voice agents and workflow builders, this is very similar. And it's funny because 11 Labs announced it before OpenAI's Dev Day. So I think they had some inside information. People were saying they're like this workflow agent builder is going to launch. So it's kind of funny to see that 11 Labs introduced agent workflows about an hour or so before Dev Day started. So it's basically a visual editor for designing conversation flows in the agents platform. So instead of building all your business logic in a single agent, workflows enable you to handle more complex scenarios by routing to specialized sub-agents.
Duh.
It's triggering. 11 Labs just took a major step towards agentic control. And it all starts here. Our new visual editor for designing complex agent conversation flows. This brand new functionality lets you orchestrate every scenario, blending artificial intelligence, complex logic, and deterministic action. Whether it's triggering real-world events, verifying and authorizing callers, or transferring to a human operator, you decide the user flow for every scenario. And each sub-agent can draw from its own tools, knowledge base, or language model, optimizing for cost, latency, and accuracy at every stage. Control, precision, and escalation, all done at scale with agent testing integration, allowing you to depend on 11 Labs agents with confidence. So take control today with workflows from 11 Labs.
Okay.
I love how they think that they invented workflows.
I mean,
it's a canvas, it's same shit.
Yeah, everyone, we've all seen this, right? It's, connect to, it's basically all the same thing. I thought it was interesting though, because obviously OpenAI released their cheaper real-time voice and their workflows. So yeah, OpenAI is also competing pretty heavily with 11 Labs, right?
Yeah, totally. And
if you're 11 Labs, it makes sense that you wanted to try to get your stuff out first, because if they announced now, it would be, it definitely would have the impact. It's still I guess that's some decent reach on this, but I don't think they probably You know,
That's not the reach that you want.
I don't think it's the launch, you know, in 5 hours. Bet they were hoping for more reach than that.
Yeah.
But it is cool, you know, if you're building voice agents, you know, this feels like 11 Labs is now trying to compete a little bit more directly with, you know, Vapi, which of course they're on a collision course, and then OpenAI is of course right in there as well.
And Vapi has a workflow builder as well.
Yeah.
So everyone's coalescing on these patterns. I remember the people told us that workflows weren't necessary when we first started. Joke's on y'all.
Yeah, one of the funny things was how many people did say, why do you recommend workflows? And it was basically because you can't just turn over control all the time to the LLM and hope that it's going to call the right tools in all the situations. So what we almost always end up doing is like telling people, like, yes, you pull out the stuff that it gets wrong, turn those into workflows if you can be more prescriptive, and then let the agent do what it can do well. But yeah, that's why, you know, we did have some comments and questions around like multi-agent networks. Typically, even with multi-agent networks, it's always better if you can you do the routing yourself, or like control the routing with a workflow, because all our multi-agent network under the hood does is it's basically a workflow that we've just like pre-wired up and said, here's like a basic multi-agent network that allows you to call between different agents. But if you can, then you should control the control flow a bit more yourself with workflows.
Yeah.
And that's what all these tools are doing, right? If OpenAI was that confident, they wouldn't need a workflow engine, right? They would just say, like, tell the agent what to do and it'll just do it. But of course, that's not the reality.
That's not
right?
how it works.
All right.
Should we pause for the guest, or?
Yeah, we do have a guest. So we have a couple other pieces of AI news. We'll come back to those at the end. We got a guest here we want to bring on and talk to. You know, if you are watching this and you're new, we try to bring on interesting guests from across the industry that are doing cool things with AI. And we want to just ask questions, see what they're working on, get to know them a bit, and see if there's anything they can either demo or talk about as far as like what they're doing on a daily basis. So we're going to bring on our first guest here. We are going to bring on Sean Roberts from Netlify. Sean, welcome to the show.
What up,
Hey,
dude?
good to see y'all. How you doing?
Good.
It's been a while, man.
It's been a while. I always love the skateboard decks in the background. I remember, you know, having a few conversations with you while I was at Netlify with those in the background. So it feels familiar.
I know. I need to swap them up. As a kid, dreaming of just having boards that I can just use for decor. I'm excited about it, but now I need to cover the rest of the wall.
Yeah, well, that's my always like why I have guitars on the wall, like, you know, in different places in my house. Is like I'm not gonna. That's my version of hanging art, right? So.
Yeah, exactly.
But welcome to the show. Welcome to AI Agents Hour. Can you tell us a little bit just about yourself? And then, of course, I'm sure we're going to ask a lot of questions about what you're doing at Netlify as well.
Yeah, I am Sean. I live in just south of Atlanta, and you know, just trying to make the web awesome. And with this kind of rise in AI and just all that it kind of unlocks, just finding all the interesting ways to make web development better, the web better, and just like the integration between agents and AI and the web, like just better. Because right now it's just kind of this, we're making it work, but there's so many things that we can do to improve.
Yeah, for sure. When did you start getting into AI?
I mean, I was definitely kind of on the consumer side of it. So like, you know, after ChatGPT and all these kind of big kind of obvious announcements happened in the market, that's when it was like, okay, now this is like something I should really look at, because at least for me, having, you know, been in development for, you know, 2 decades, right? Like I've seen these things, and, you know, machine learning models that can do really incredible things. I mean, that's not new, but like where we started seeing this like pretty consistent unstructured to structured kind of output experience, like that's when it was just like, whoa, there's so many things I've always wanted to do, but turns out it was like impossible to do before. That really kind of just sparked this kind of spiral of like, oh, we can do this and then that, and then, you know, and then I guess it just kind of grew from there. So yeah, my background is primarily in kind of the web architecture space, and it really took over in the last several years, just bringing AI into that fold.
Yeah, well, I mean, I remember, and for those that don't know, we worked with Sean. Abby and I
Yeah,
were both at Gatsby. We kind of came over to Netlify, and we both, worked with Sean a bit. But I do
yeah,
remember it did seem, and we didn't work that closely together, but you were always kind of like bringing new and interesting things to Netlify while I was there, and then AI obviously came, while I
yeah.
was there, but started to pick up steam even after I left. And so it seems like now you've been leaning even more into that over the last 2 years or so.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's I've had the real privilege of being able to kind of work on these speculative projects and things that we're not sure if we should distract the larger team with yet, and things like that. And just my own curiosities have been just driving, that intrinsic motivation of, what would be cool to see. And yeah, Netlify has really been a great place to, enable that type of creativity in the team.
Yeah. So what's Netlify's AI strategy now? Like now that we're all here and we're doing
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So I think the biggest thing is it actually started. Um, actually, it's almost been about a year now where, um, Bolt. Um, actually, even before that. So Devin, whenever it first launched, you know, came to Netlify and was like, "Hey, we want to use y'all to do the web deployment side of things." And we started kind of um, down this path of like, how can we optimize Netlify to be really good with agents? And we started out pretty bad at that, and then we got a little bit better, and then we were like, actually, this whole problem space of like just trying to have a great agent experience is not unique to Netlify problem. And we stepped back and examined like, hey, if we look at what um, the next 5-10 years are going to look like, it's going to be these businesses that optimize for having a great agent experience that are going to be preferred by agents, discoverable by agents, and actually working well with agents. So since the beginning of this year, that's been our strategy. Is just focus on trying to be the best agent experience for the web and web deployments that we can be, and then everything else has just kind of come from that, right? And even with our launch last week, we're now getting into this new era of trying to have a great agent experience for these more asynchronous background agents, not just these synchronous agents that you use like Windsurf or Bolt.new, things like that, right? Those are more synchronous ones, and the background ones have kind of been like, self-contained, but now we can help run those on your behalf and things like that. So anyway, that strategy really comes down to building the best agent experience that we can, um, and helping our customers do the same.
What are like the tenets of agent experience? Because I know you have. First of all, Netlify is the best at coining terms, so like good
Yes,
idea
yes.
for sure.
Yeah.
AX,
AX.
and I think I posted it in the chat here for
Yeah.
other people. But the agent experience.ax, I remember when that first came out.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think are now like the tenets of agent experience?
So it's been interesting because that website has a lot of this information. And first of all, Matthias gets the credit for the coiner of names, the chief coiner name.
Yeah, he's pretty good at that. Jamstack, AX,
Yeah.
that's not bad. That's not a bad track record.
Composable web.
Composable
Incredible.
web. Yeah, there's a pretty good track record there of
Yeah.
some names that are definitely sticky.
Yeah. So for me, right? So like this is something that me and Matt spent a lot of time thinking on before we actually really pushed and focused the company on it. Was this, if we look back at the early web, at some point, if you didn't have a website at all, you just weren't relevant. And then when search engines were like how people discovered content on the web, if you weren't ranking pretty high on search engines, you also weren't relevant, right? Like that's just the math that it turned out to be. And now if agents are this new entry point, then like how are you actually going to show up and how are you going to be useful? Like if you don't do that, it's not going to be relevant. So that itself is like this call to action. It's not meant to be one of fear either. It's just like, hey, we've seen this now. This is at least the third time this has happened on the web. Like let's not pretend like this isn't what's happening here, and go after it. And we've set out a lot of energy into studying and researching how agents work with our platform, working with partners to figure out how what they're learning, and then coalescing a lot of that information into industry resources and stuff that we write around agent experience. And especially because we've had this launch coming up over the within October, we hadn't been able to focus on the site itself. So within the last month or so, but even over the last 6 months, right, where this stuff has been written, but now we need to see how well it actually plays out, and 100% of it is still spot on. So like I think we've done a pretty good job in terms of identifying those principles and seeing those um, really become what is important for working with agents. But even more so, it's really impressive to see the industry changing in different ways that I don't think that they're intentionally trying to improve the state of AX, but they are, right? From agents, auditability and like identity, like that's the whole space. Like that's one of the core tenets around, or principles of AX is around differentiating agent interactivity and agents broadcasting who they are in a trustworthy way, and then making sure those things are audible is right there on it. So it's really coming. All this stuff has really come to fruition now.
Yeah, I think like a couple months ago, AX was like the best way. Like some people's definition of AX was like, how do you write applications that are like human to agent and then agent to external system, and predominantly it was like enforced by chat applications and stuff. But like I'm pretty sure that's not necessarily the end all be all for everything. What are you
Yeah.
seeing out there in the Netlify world on these background agents versus people? Like, do people want chat still? Is that a thing?
Uh, Definitely. So for better or worse, at least from what I've seen, I uh what the reality is to your point, the market's going to decide like what people actually end up voting with their dollars, and what they're investing in is going to decide it. However, the more of these systems I use and try to integrate in my personal life, the more I actually crave more voice interactions, right? Like there's a lot of times like I'll be, when I'm doing things that I don't want to do and would like to like if I'm doing the dishes or cleaning or something, I'd love to just kind of be like, working on projects, but like being able to talk to these agents and get them to do work while I'm doing other stuff and I can't use my hands and things like that. Like that ends up being where I want to do a lot of my personal exploration. So all I had to say is I think that we're going to see, a nice range of mediums that people want to work with to fit what, fits their needs at that moment in time. And many times, right, if I'm like at my daughter's, gymnastics, school, like I don't want to be talking out loud. I just want to be, texting. So like chat is very useful in that world. So I think we're going to
Yeah.
see all of them.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's kind of like how you would traditionally work with another person. Sometimes you want to talk to them because you
Yeah.
feel like you can have a more direct conversation. Sometimes you want to send them a message and let them do their thing, come back to you. Other times there's like external triggers that will indicate that something has to happen between, with that, whether that's like they got a Slack message or an email or some kind of like external trigger that then dictates they need to do something. So I think all those things are probably going to be true, and we need
Yeah.
to we'll eventually live in a reality where all are important. But I do agree with you that I think voice, that I find myself more and more frequently just chatting with typically ChatGPT. I use all of them,
Yeah.
but I probably talk to ChatGPT, at least voice wise, the most.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's becoming more and more of my time is just having a conversation rather than just like sending a message.
Yeah. 100%. And I think where it's getting on the net, Avi, you asked about the Netlify side of things. I think we we don't. I mean, obviously, there's people building agents on Netlify, and we absolutely support all that, but like, and we want to support the different mediums and their ability to do so. But where, Netlify gets the most kind of interactivity with agents is obviously on the kind of extraction of data. And so like they're trying to scrape data or search for data or pulling LLM's text or whatever. They're trying to visit a customer website and pull information out of it. So we're, a step two or three past that entry point, and now we're trying to help provide that information in a really great way. And I think for me, that's where a lot of my interest and kind of research focus is. It's like, what is the best version of the web for an agent, so that we're not only leaning into what agents can do, right, and optimizing for them, but like the web owner is also having a good experience. It's not super expensive for them to do these things, and
Yeah.
they don't have to learn what Web3 is, maybe, to pay for all of it. So yeah.
So, so can you tell us a little bit? So, Netlify just had a launch
Yes.
last week, right? Maybe October 1st, if I'm
Yep.
remembering my date correctly. Can you tell us and the audience a little bit more about what did you launch? What are you excited about? What are the things that you've been cooking over there that maybe people missed or haven't quite seen yet?
Right. So, just a small bit of background context. So, Netlify has been doing like web infrastructure for 10 years now. So, we make it as easy as possible for you to go from either a repo or just some files and having a published website on the other side of it. And, we do that not just for the stack stuff, but the full stack nature of sites as well. And we has spent this decade optimizing for the developer experience and just having an opinion on not just like how to build any technology ever, but like how to build websites and web apps. And so that allows us to cut out a lot of noise and generic stuff, and so we can be very opinionated and develop a great developer experience from that. And as soon as agents started generating code, right now, like, first of all, code is cool to look at, I guess. Like, I like looking at code, but like it's kind of useless unless you can run it somewhere. And so agents really needed this ability to host and run their that code on the web. And so that it's a full end-to-end experience, not just this whole like isolated feature. So that's where Netlify really got into supporting the AI community in this new AI development era, supporting, like I mentioned earlier, various different synchronous, what we call synchronous agents, where you're kind of collaborating with them real time. So, like if you're in Cursor or Copilot and you're talking to them, talking to the agent, and it's generating code, and you're seeing a preview and doing some back and forth. And building up to last week, we launched two really important new parts of our offering. One is called Agent Runners, and the other one is our AI Gateway. The AI Gateway, which is probably the easiest one to talk to, is just a standard ability to start using inference from providers like Anthropic and OpenAI through Netlify. But where our kind of take on this is we wanted to optimize again for the developer experience. So with Netlify, if you write a serverless function that starts using, let's say, the OpenAI or Anthropic SDK, it'll automatically start using that inference from them. There's no configuration needed on their side or bring your own token. You obviously can, but you don't have to. And there's also no additional configuration layer on our side for you to also set these up. It's literally create a serverless file, import their SDK. You can copy and paste their SDK from their websites, throw it in a serverless function, and it will just work. So that developer experience is huge. We've already seen over 1 billion tokens going through our AI gateway, which is amazing, given that we launched it last Wednesday. And then the agent runner side, this is my favorite part, right? So agent runners is our ability to orchestrate agents on behalf of customers. So Netlify doesn't want to build our own agent. We believe that in terms of like, we don't want to build our own, let's say bolt.new or cursor competitor, things like that. Like, we believe that they're going to kind of be many different types of agents in this market, and like they're going to suit people, different people in different ways. So we want to support that ecosystem. And with agent runners, we're able to import these foundation model agents. This is what we support at launch. So Claude Code, Codex CLI, and Gemini CLI. We, you can go to Netlify, write a prompt, and we will run that prompt with some additional context against those agents on your behalf, do a build, and then do a preview deploy of that. And what that means is you're not just getting the code generation, but you're also getting a validated build and a preview deploy, so that you can validate whether or not it's working the way you want, and then decide to iterate on it or merge it or create a PR from it. And I can even demo this one today. That one's pretty easy to show. But at least for me, there's this gap in the market right now where there's like the bolts and the lovables of the world that are really easy to use for prototypes and net new sites and things like that, and they're amazing. And then there's the Claude Codes and the Codex CLIs of the world, which are really powerful and can work on much more complex sites and systems. But you have to be much more technical to use those.
Yeah.
So there's this gap between, well, I want the really best models, or the best agents, but the team that really needs them can't use them. My marketing team can't use it. My finance team that wants to update the finance page can't use them. So by us taking on the orchestration of this, you can go to Netlify, see go to your site, and just anyone on your team can ask, hey, update this page to do X, Y, and Z, and it's going to do all that for you. And you didn't need to know anything about what a CLI is, how to pull down a GitHub repo for it to work on, how to push a PR, any of that stuff. It just kind of handles all of the technical parts because that's what Netlify does already.
Yeah.
So we just make it really easy to run these models on your behalf, or these agents.
And then the preview deployment is super clutch, because if they don't know what they're doing, they at least can visually check it with their eyes.
Yeah.
So that's tight.
Exactly. It's like, I'm not just gonna try to throw all the Kool-Aid at everybody here, but it's been really cool to see the team, like how they've actually changed their work now that they have access to agent runners, because they actually use agent runners to build agent runners. At a certain point, it was like, okay, it's stable and it's doing mostly what I want, but man, I wish it did this. And someone would throw that idea into an agent run, go to a meeting, whatever, and then come back and it's implemented. And instead of it being like hey, let's talk about this ticket. Should we do this? Should we do that? Someone just threw the experiment out there, showed the demo of it, and it was like, we're doing this, right? Yeah. Okay. like that's where the
And a lot of
conversation
times, even if it's so much easier to have throwaway prototypes too. Like you might not even use it might just be it gets the idea flowing, and now you can say, okay, this part was right, these things were wrong. Now we kind of know the direction we want to go. So the next time you actually get more sophisticated and you can actually get it closer to where you want.
You know what you're doing now.
Absolutely. The sunk cost fallacy like drops to zero, and now you're not just deciding to do something because we invested a lot of time in prototyping an idea or researching it. It's like, let's just try this thing out. Like, Matthias, our CEO, he there was this one problem where it was like, DNS is hard. I think we all know that. And whenever, it's because we host domains and help people register them, we have to deal with a lot of DNS issues and people registering their domains on external providers. There's 1,000 external providers and they have all their own version of how to do this. And so whenever someone comes to our app, there's this question of like, hey, what if we just kind of taught them how to do this and register within other people's, registrar, right? So like, can you register this domain on GoDaddy or Namecheap or Name.com. And the prospect of doing that before agent runners was like, okay, well, where are we going to source the data? How are we going to figure this thing out? And like, it's a scale problem because we're not experts in all the systems, and nor should we ever become that. But with AI is trained on basically all of that data, and we can just get an agent runner to build out a proof of concept of this. Like would the experience be totally different if whenever someone hit an issue where it was like, hey, you're supposed to go to GoDaddy.com to register this, and we said, here's exactly how you do it. And now these less technical users who are getting really into web development but still have to deal with DNS are really walked through this problem. And again, the decision to do this was not like, okay, how are we going to scale this? How are we going to figure out all this data? Blah, blah, blah. It was, hey, Matt kicked off an agent run while we were going into a few meetings, iterated on it on a few times, and now we're like 95% sure we should just ship this. Let's fix a few issues here and there, and we're done.
Yeah.
That's a different world and a different workflow and velocity that the entire team gets to have now.
Absolutely. All right, Sean, we went a little long, but we do appreciate you coming on. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you or stay up to date with all the stuff that you're doing over at Netlify?
Yeah, I am JavaScript, which is what my kids think I do for a living, on all the things X, Blue Sky, and also check out Netlify. We have a lot of updates coming and a lot of more videos and content to show you how to kind of really get a lot from this this new AI workflow.
And we're going to see you at the conference, right?
Yes, I will be there. I'm excited to see you all in person again, and
Awesome.
yeah, looking forward to it.
See ya.
All right. We'll see you, Sean.
Take care, y'all.
That's awesome.
All right. Yeah.
I wonder if agent runners pass the beer test. Can I go to the bar and make some moves?
That was always, that's how we tested like cursor background agents. It was that, it was like, can Abhi and I go have a drink? And then when we come back, we have a prototype ready for us to actually play with. So yeah, we'll have to test the agent runners the next time.
Yeah. And I think Sean said yes, so we can't do that.
Yeah, we're gonna test it though. We're gonna try that out. But let's go on. We are a little behind and we are on a tight schedule. So we're going to bring on our next guest right away. We have Daniel from Weaviate. Daniel, welcome to AI Agents Hour.
Hey, Shane and Abby. How are you?
Doing really well.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for coming on. Well, we basically, if you're not familiar with the show, we just like to ask you some basic questions. What's Weaviate? But first, who are you? What's your background and how are you, like, how did you end up with being at Weaviate as a developer experience engineer?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, like it says on the screen, I'm Daniel Peary. I'm a developer at heart, to be honest, and I guess developer experience engineer is an extension of all of that. I have been building in some way, shape, or form for quite some time. I think I started out with like my uncle bugging me to do like Joomla sites. I don't know how many years ago.
Dude, I was it was me. It was Drupal, but so I can relate to that.
Yeah, and I was like, So it's back then, and then I did a lot in like the GraphQL space. And so I really liked tools like Gatsby. And so I was like a really web dev person. And then at some point I decided to formalize my education, as most people do. And then I did like computer science and got into some data science and AI. And then I realized that wasn't for me. And so I went back to the web space and I did a bunch of developer relations work for some really awesome open source companies. I worked with the team at Hasura for a bit. I worked with the team at Strappy. And then I decided I needed some time to sort of like recover. And so I spent a couple months just like traveling and like rebuilding this vintage bike that I bought really cheap. And then like riding it around. And this was sort of around the time when people started to realize that AI was not going anywhere. So around like GPT 3.5. So that's like ChatGPT 3.5. when people were like past the, oh, this is impressive, and I think other companies started to open up APIs. Um, and at this point, I was like, I was done building my bike, and I figured I should probably build something else. And so I started to build an expense management tool for myself, because I realized I was spending way too much money on subscriptions and expenses in general. And so I was building this app. I realized I need a place to store my vectors, because I was doing a bunch of retrieval over like documents that I was chunking, essentially getting a lot of like like my receipts and invoices and putting them somewhere, storing them somewhere. And a lot of the tools I tried to use didn't make a lot of sense. And so that's how I found out about Weaviate, because I ended up using it. And yeah, then I ended up joining the team as a developer experience engineer. It was wild. I feel like you would like exactly what I was working on. I joined to work specifically on TypeScript and JavaScript.
Yeah,
And
nice.
so
Yeah,
yeah, that
well,
was,
it's always good to hear there are more people like us coming from the web world, right? So I think a lot of people, this is a lot of our audience, because we're formerly from the web world. So you start in web, you've worked with JavaScript, you've done some TypeScript, you built some websites, you've probably played with React and a lot of other things,
yeah,
but now AI is everywhere, right? You can't even, I don't think you can really be a web developer without having to like dip your toes in building things with AI, right? Whether you're just using it personally or integrating it in the applications you're building. So it's cool to hear the story of, it's somewhat similar to, I think Abby and I both, where we were both pretty heavily in the web world for a long time.
When you
yeah.
joined with Weaviate, trying to make that, I guess, move to JavaScript, TypeScript, or were they Python first, or what was like the like how was it set up when you got there?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't think I've talked about Weaviate much. So Weaviate is I like to call us like an AI infrastructure company, primarily through like our vector database. So we essentially try and help AI native or AI anyone building with AI, developers building with AI to build sort of like these scalable applications. And the background of Weaviate actually comes way before this like AI 2.0, you know. I would say it sort of came around the time where people were really into TensorFlow. And so our core user base was Python developers, data scientists. And I think at some point they realized there's a huge, excuse me, like lack of effort, or rather lack of involvement in the web and JavaScript space. And they needed someone to sort of like set up base on the developer experience side. So yeah, I got in because they were actively trying to do that. So the first couple of months was really refreshing whatever SDK we had and building like a foundation for resources and applications. So like sample React application for a simple simple RAG app, for example, all the way to like agents when they became a thing. So that was sort of like the reasoning behind me joining.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we always, yeah, what was funny is I think, so in 2024 also, like I've heard a lot, that was the year of RAG, right? And you did see that, like, anytime you were starting to work with AI, you'd almost always end up with, okay, I need a vector DB, I need to set up semantic search, I need to, and now you hear all these people saying RAG is dead, but we all know, like, okay, no, it is definitely not.
Yeah.
It's just now becomes such a core part of what you're doing that you don't need to talk about it quite as frequently. Like, people don't quite talk about it as much as they used to, because it's just, I think, now become an expected part of your stack, that you need like
Absolutely.
this knowledge retrieval or this information retrieval mechanism when you're building either like an agentic application, a workflow, an AI agent. So I guess, can you tell me a little bit about like what makes Weaviate special, right? There's a lot of vector DBs out there, and there's a lot of pretty good ones, and I put Weaviate in that bucket. But what do you think? What do you like about Weaviate that you think like separates it a bit?
Yeah, I that's a great question. Before I get into that, actually, like there's a lot of people saying RAG is dead, which I think is a very like cyclical thing. People have been saying that for I think 2 years, but I think what people are calling it now is like context engineering, right? Just because it's sort of table stakes at this
Yeah,
point.
exactly.
And so like I think everyone got tired of how RAG wasn't this big concept that was jarring, and so then it wasn't fun to just like mention and show off, and so now everyone's like, oh, context engineering, and now it's like, oh, what is that? How do I do this?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think RAG is like it felt like RAG, people think RAG was very prescriptive. It means you have to have a vector DB, you have to do this. And RAG
yeah,
was more general than that, but I think context engineering captures that better. That, like there are components of context engineering and that's incredibly important. And there are tools that you use when you're doing context engineering. And, Weaviate can be one of those tools.
As a
yeah.
pessimist, I think people invent new words so they can make money. So maybe they couldn't make money off the word rag anymore. They had to change some shit up.
And then people had to come up with context. Yeah, I absolutely agree. I feel like it's the same thing with agents. When agents, and I don't know if you might relate to this even more coming from like a web world, and then you discover what all these AI people are calling things, and you're like, that's it?
Yeah, that's exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
like that's all you're describing? So yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree. I think people are just trying to make money out of it. But more on Weaviate, like what makes us special? We're primarily built to be as flexible as possible, and sometimes that can be a bad thing because people aren't really sure what you do really well, and to give people an idea of sort of like the areas where we thrive. One, we're sort of like we're built in Go, so you can build your own modules for whatever you want to do. And when I said like we're an infrastructure company, we're really trying to help make your life as easy as possible, sort of like from ingestion to query, right? I think a lot of databases only find you at query and storage, but we really do our best to abstract a lot of the difficulty from getting whatever data in whatever form you have it into the database and then serving whatever needs you might have when you actually do query that database. So our ingestion process is extremely robust, I would feel. And we have some really cool features coming out that would make that even nicer. I'll sort of like tease those to basically let you dump a bunch of data, go to sleep, and then when you wake up to all the data in your database. Because I think if we're being honest, vector databases deal with a huge amount of data, an unimaginable amount of data. Like before I joined, I had no idea people were processing like terabytes of data. That's another level of scale for me. I don't know about you two.
Yeah, I mean, it's the amount of data, especially, that if you think about some of these enterprises that we talk to, the amount of data they have and just like historical data that they need to get into, a vector DB, and they need to figure out the right chunking strategy, and they need to figure out how do they inject that into the context in the right way.
Yeah.
It is a massive scale for some of these companies.
I mean, they hit limits too, like with regular
Sorry?
vector databases. Like they hit too many limits, like too much concurrency. It becomes like a big engineering problem. Actually,
Yeah, it's a huge engineering problem, and a lot of people forget that vector databases are databases, and you have to have efficient ways of dealing with race conditions, dealing with scalability, dealing with sharding, dealing with multi-tenancy, and all of those are things that Weaviate sort of brings to the table, which, to be honest, you only encounter when you really function at that scale. So building your simple RAG pipeline isn't something that you would probably encounter the need to sort of have like like five replicas of your database, just because you have so much sort of throughput going on to different clients. So those are the types of things, and all the way to like compression, because tokens, as cheap as they can be for embeddings, you sort of don't want to spend money when you don't want to, right? So we do a lot of really interesting things on the compression side of things, trying to save as much for our customers, but also trying to make things more efficient. I think a lot of people just run vector databases in default mode, not knowing that you could probably save like, I think 30% on storage with maybe like a 5% loss on accuracy, maybe even less. And for a lot of use cases, that's very negligible. So it's a lot of these really I say boring because, you know, they're flashy, but for applications that are built at a huge scale are really important.
Yeah, those are the things that you don't appreciate right away until you need them, and then
Yeah.
having the right dials to be able to turn and, you know, crank up the compression, maybe at the cost of slight accuracy, but yeah, it's everything in engineering almost ends up being trade-offs, right? It's like cost versus latency versus, and so, but having that and being able to understand that, I think is important. And
Yeah.
the defaults, you definitely don't at least understand that. And then once you do understand it, then you realize, okay, there's a lot of stuff in order for me to do that I have to wire up instead
Yeah,
of,
absolutely.
if I want to do it myself.
And so we see like a lot of different types of people who need sort of some sort of retrieval tool. So like ranging from these big enterprise companies with like, I don't know, terabytes of data to basically like a web developer getting into this. And we try and cater to everyone exactly where they are. And because of that, we built this really cool thing, as everyone is doing. Everyone's building agents right now, right? So we built what we call a query agent because retrieval is a very funny engineering problem. It's also, I think, a very funny scientific problem because getting a result is only half of the story, you know? It's the relevance of that result, um, like objectively, but also when you contextualize it to what data you have, also the relevance of that result matters. And all of these have very different answers, essentially. A question could be sort of like a query you might have could have I don't know, a numeric answer being the valid response, where other times you sort of have I don't know, sort of like a text answer. And there's a lot of nuance that goes into making sure that users have the right response from whatever query that they put into an application or into a vector database. And so we built a query agent to sort of handle all of that overhead for people who don't want to go into having to set up, you know, all these knobs to make the search or the retrieval work a certain way. And we're finding a lot of people in the web space are finding it quite useful.
Yeah, the query agent is tight, dude, because like embedding, inserting, and querying, that's
Yeah.
like so much context that engineer needs to know to then make their own agent to do that type of stuff. But if I can just have an agent that is in front of my vector database that already knows how to query it and I'm just talking to it, or even my own agent is prompting it,
Yeah.
that is legit.
So we do have that, and I don't know if we have a lot of time. I could probably demo it at some point. It's good to hear that you'd find that really useful, to be honest, because the goal we had with building this is a lot of people want to interact with vector databases in a very different way. A lot of people want to have that pipeline. A lot of people just want to have this exposed over an API. And so we realized this sort of helps a lot of people because we have like a cloud offering where we've also built this really nice front end for this query agent. And you essentially have this UI where you can chat with your data. And all of this works really well with whatever enterprise role and management systems you have. So someone who doesn't have access to specific things is not able to talk to or like at least access these things. But even on the other side, right, like there's a whole API. So you could build or you could expose this agent to your agent, and then your agent is able to see that these are, you know, the specific tools and the specific things. I've actually built a couple multi-agent systems with this, sort of like integrating with, I think I did something with Twilio and Resend, where I had a bunch of data in my Weaviate cluster. So this is just like newsletter data or like basic sort of like snippets of my day. And I'd be like, hey, I just came back from this trip. Could you send like a little newsletter to my friends, like with the highlights of this trip? And the query agent would pick out exactly the right thing in the right collection because it sort of knows where everything is, and then sort of like trigger the email tool to send an email, and then boom, my friends have this thing in their inbox. And that's so much time saved for me. Not that I don't like to, you know, write write
So
things
you
to my
don't like
friends.
to send your friends messages.
We won't let them know.
Yeah, we won't tell them. Hopefully they don't watch this.
Hopefully they aren't watching this, but yeah, all the emails you receive with like my trip
Yeah.
update, that's all
Yeah.
that's all an agent.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't have time necessarily for a demo today, but you kind of tease some things coming up in Weaviate. So maybe once, if you know when those are going to launch, we should just have you on
Yeah.
again and maybe make some time so you can demo this a little bit more on the query agent or whatever else you might be cooking up over there that you haven't been able to announce. We'd definitely love to have you back.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah. I
Are you
would
in SF, Daniel?
completely love. No, not at the moment, but I should be next April.
Nice.
Okay.
Anytime, just let us
Yeah.
know when you're there. We can hang out.
Yeah, when you're in town, hit us up. We definitely should hang out.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't get the chance to chat with you, Abby, when you were in Paris, but hopefully in SF.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, Daniel. Well, we do have to run. Not that we want to kick you off, but Abi is probably going to miss a flight if he doesn't leave in like the next 3 minutes because he's got to go. We're in my hometown now. He has to go actually to SF.
Oh,
and then
nice.
but it was great to have you on. And next time you launch something, like reach out. We want to see it. We want to see a demo of some of this stuff too, because I think it'd be really cool to see, and our audience would love to see it.
Anytime.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, and good luck with your flight.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, see you, Daniel.
Bye.
You gonna wrap the show up?
Yeah. I mean, Abi's got to take off here, so you're seeing him pack up. And while he's packing up, I'm going to wrap this thing up. Thank you all for watching AI Agents Hour with Abi and myself. Please, if you haven't already signed up for the TSConf, go to tsconf.ai and sign up. You can register virtually; it's free, or come in person is even better. See you, dude. Abi's going to catch a flight. And yeah, today we talked about OpenAI Dev Day. We went through all the news, all the announcements. We talked about a little bit other AI news. We talked to Sean from Netlify. We talked to Daniel from Weaviate. It was kind of rapid pace because we were on a tighter timeline than normal. Sometimes we'll go for 2 hours if time permits, but unfortunately today time did not permit. We were in a hurry. But we do appreciate you all for watching. Please go to master.ai if you are curious on what we do. Go to master.ai/book and grab that if you don't have your copy. We will be in SF if you're around SF this week. And yeah, we look forward to chatting with you all then. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.